Hello guys, and welcome back to How to Feed the Beast in Minecraft with me, UnstableVoltage. Today we're going to be taking a look at two new machines which will allow us to improve our automation using BuildCraft pipes. So the two items we're going to build are the assembly table and the laser. Both of these are from the BuildCraft mod, and these are used to produce gates. Gates are then connected to BuildCraft pipes, either transport pipes or conductive pipes, and gates can be used to send signals and instructions to engines and machines based on meeting one or a number of different criteria. Now these machines are quite easy to make, but they are a little bit expensive. They do use obsidian and diamonds, but we will go and put them together, and then I can show you in today's video how we are going to produce and utilise the most basic of gates. So let's head on over to the workshop. Okay then guys, let's start with our assembly table. Now as I said, it's quite expensive because you're going to need a diamond gear, which is a gold gear and 4 diamonds. So obviously you're going to need 4 gold for the gold gear as well, so not the cheapest of recipe. So a diamond gear at the bottom with another diamond above it, a redstone in the top middle, and then 6 obsidian, 3 down either side. Very, very easy to build. So I'm going to take our assembly table, and it's going to live here at this end of the workshop. Now I do have a couple of redstone power conduits coming through these holes in the floor from the engines downstairs, but I'm going to put the assembly table right here in the middle. Now if we click on the assembly table, you can see we have our interface here, and there are 3 sections to the interface. The left hand side is for ingredients and materials. This bar in the middle is the progress bar for the completion of construction, and the 8 slots on the right hand side represent the different items we can make. Now the way the assembly table works is if you put any ingredients in the left hand side, it will automatically tell you all of the recipes you can make. So for example, if I put redstone in, you can see I now have the recipe for a redstone chipset. If I also put iron in there, it now gives me the recipe for a redstone iron chipset. I can put gold in there, and it now gives me the recipe for a redstone golden chipset. Now if I were to click on redstone chipset, you can see it now has this little pentagram around it, and what that will do now is it will produce redstone chipsets constantly until it runs out of materials. If I were to click the redstone iron chipset, you can see that's highlighted. It would produce iron chipsets until it runs out of materials. It is possible to have more than one selected. Now as you can see, when you have more than one selected, one is lit and the others are dark. And the way this works is whichever one is lit is the one that we produced next, but it will go through them in order. So if I have all 3 of these selected, it will make a golden chipset, then a redstone chipset, then an iron chipset, then a golden chipset, and so on and so forth. If I untick the golden one, it will just keep making these 2, one after another, until it runs out of materials. But before we can do anything else with that, we actually need a way to power it, and that is what we need lasers for. So, back on over to the crafting table. Now the lasers aren't quite as expensive to make, but they do still require 2 diamonds. So what you're going to need is 2 obsidian, top left and bottom left, 2 diamonds in the middle left and the centre, and then the remaining 5 slots all filled with redstone, and that will give you a laser. Now I have another laser here. I've actually made 2 of them, and I'm going to go and put them down. Now they do require power, BuildCraft power. They use 4 MJ per tick, so you can run them off a combustion engine or a couple of combustion engines. They will work from Stirling engines, but not quite so efficient. So I'm going to put these lasers down here. Now, in order for a laser to work, it has to be within an 11 by 11 by 11 cube with the assembly table in the centre. So therefore, you can place the laser anywhere as long as it's no more than 5 blocks away from the assembly table in any direction. Lasers don't have to be placed on the ground, they can be placed upside down on the ceiling, you can place them on the walls, as long as they have power going to them and as long as they are within 5 blocks of the assembly table. Now, as you can see, nothing's really happening. That's because we've got no power. So I'm going to go over here and flick the switch to turn the engines on. And almost instantly as I do that, as soon as the power starts to get through the redstone energy conduits downstairs, and nothing's happening, and I realise that's because I haven't told it what I want to build yet. So for a start, I just want a basic redstone chipset. I'm going to click that, and as you can see, the lasers have instantly kicked in. The colour changes from red, yellow, green to blue, just the same way that engines do. So when it's blue, it is at maximum efficiency. As you can see, we are producing the redstone chipset. It's not exactly fast. Now I'm using 2 lasers, so if I was only using one, this would only be going at half the speed. It is possible to use multiple lasers on one assembly table. It's also possible to use one laser with multiple assembly tables, and the laser will alternate between the 2, 3, 4, however many assembly tables you have. So if you want a proper laser light show, what you need to do is get a few assembly tables and get a lot of lasers, make a little room for it, and this can be quite impressive. You can walk through the lasers, it's not going to stop them from working, it doesn't do any harm to you, it's literally just a sort of graphical representation that it's doing something. Now the one downside with the assembly table, which is something we will address in a future episode, is that it has no storage, and when it's finished creating something, it just spits it out like that. And we've just picked up our redstone chipset. Now while it's making our second redstone chipset, if I put this redstone chipset back in to the left hand side, you can now see that I can produce a gate. Now there are several different types of gate. The 3 basic types are a standard gate, which will give a certain output if a single criteria is met. Then you have an AND gate, which will give an output if multiple criteria is met. So for example, if A is true and B is true. And you can also make an if gate, which will output a signal if one of a number of criteria have been met. So if criteria A has been met, or if criteria B has been met. So you've got the AND gates and the OR gates. Okay, so let me stop that from making a redstone chipset because we already have 2. And put those back in there. And what I want to do now is create 2 gates, and that's going to work in exactly the same way and spit those out. So I'll leave that doing its thing, and I will come back to it when it has finished. Okay, and there's the first one just popped out. Took a while, but let's pick that up and wait for the second one. While the second one's being produced, I'm going to show you exactly what these do. Now, like I said, they have to be connected to a BuildCraft pipe, either a transport pipe or a conductive pipe. So as you can see, there is a normal piece of cobblestone transport pipe, and if I right click it with a gate, it now puts the gate on that piece of pipe. Now because the pipe's not connected to anything, you're not going to see anything really interesting. If I right click, you can see on the interface, on the left and the right, the left as I cycle through shows you what the conditions are. So, for example, let's look at what we've got. We have if the pipe is empty, if there are items travelling through the pipe, if there is a redstone signal on, because some machines output a redstone signal if they are full or idle, or if there's a redstone signal off. So those are the 4 criteria: empty pipe, items in the pipe, redstone signal on, redstone signal off, and then on the right hand side, the only option we have at the moment is a redstone signal. So what we can say is, if there are items in the pipe, output a redstone signal. Not really useful. We'd have slightly different options if this was on a conductive pipe, because we'd have the option for if the pipe is powered or unpowered, as opposed to items traversing through. I'm just going to destroy that piece of pipe. I'll get the pipe and the gate back. And what I'm going to do is move over to one of my machines and place the pipe next to the machine and put the gate on the pipe now. Now if I right click on the gate, you'll see we have more options. Again, pipe empty, items traversing, redstone signal on or off, But we also have inventory empty, items in the inventory, space in the inventory, or inventory full. So what we could say, for example, is if the inventory is empty, so if there's no item in the rotary macerator, to output a redstone signal. Or we could, and as you can see now, the rotary macerator is actually powering up because we are outputting a redstone signal to the macerator even though there's nothing in there. Now if I change that to items in the inventory, the redstone signal goes off because there isn't anything in the macerator. We could also, it is limited by the machine, so we've only got the option to output a redstone signal there. So what I'm going to do is break that again. Hopefully our other gate is finished, and it has, and we will pop outside to our apiaries because I have a little project in mind to show you guys a great way to put these gates to use. So I will be covering some of the more complex use of the various different gates in future episodes, but for this video we're just going to concentrate on the simple gate. Okay then guys, so if you remember from last episode or a couple of episodes ago, I made this little contraption that takes all of my leftover bees, pumps them into the gene pool, which then gets turned into liquid DNA and pumped out into this tank over here. Now, what you can see at the moment, there are no bees in the gene pool. I haven't got the engine turned on to pump the bees around the system, and there are a few in the chest. Now, my main concern with this, because the gene pool was actually working quite quickly, is there was a lot of time when the gene pool didn't actually have any bees in it, and the engines were all still pumping away and burning peat. I had a red alloy wire running under my liquid duct here with a lever to turn them on and off, which I've removed a little earlier, and this is what I'm going to use my first gate for. So what I want to do, instead of having to turn these engines on and off, is have a way for the gene pool to tell the engines when it has something to do. So what I'm going to do is this. I am going to place a cobblestone transport pipe here at the back of the gene pool. Now you can actually place the gate on any pipe that's connected to it. So I could have put it here, but then it's difficult for me to run the cables to it, so I'm going to do it on this pipe. This pipe serves no purpose whatsoever other than attaching a gate to it. So what I'm going to do, if we look at the options we have now, we have pipe empty, items traversing, redstone signal on and off, inventory empty, items in the inventory, space in the inventory, inventory full. We also have a tank because there's a liquid storage tank in the gene pool. Tank empty, liquid in tank, space for liquid, tank full. No energy, energy stored, or can store energy, or full energy. Can work, cannot work, is working, is not working. No energy, low energy, medium, high energy, full energy. Lots of different options. And then on the right hand side we can get it to output a redstone signal, or we can get it to pause a process or cancel a task. So what I want to do with this is I want to say, if there are items in the inventory, output a redstone signal. That simple. I've got some red alloy wire. I'm going to run that wire across here. Now as you can see, at the moment, let's get that out of my space. At the moment the gene pool is not on, neither are the engines. I'm going to flick this switch here and allow the bees to start being pumped out of that chest. Now what I could also do here, although it doesn't really matter with redstone engines because they don't use any fuel and they don't overheat, I could remove this lever here, place a gate on this bit of pipe and say if there are items in the inventory, output a redstone signal, which means if there's bees in the chest, the engine will turn on. If there's no bees in the chest, the engine will turn off. So let's watch very carefully. Hopefully at least one of these bees will make its way into the gene pool. Is the first one? No, the first one's going to continue around because BuildCraft pipes prefer to go in a straight line. The second bee is also continuing on in a straight line. Hopefully the third one, law of averages, there we go. So the third one's gone in. The moment it goes into the gene pool, the gate has now detected that there are items in the inventory. and it is now outputting a redstone signal, and the engines are working. And what will happen is that will continue to output a redstone signal until there are no more bees in here, and then it will turn off. Now there's also a liquid duct here, and the liquid duct takes the liquid DNA to the iron tank. Now there is an internal storage tank on the gene pool, but I don't like having the liquid ducts on all the time, and the liquid ducts do require a redstone signal to work, so I can do exactly the same thing here at the front. Another cobblestone transport pipe, which isn't going to connect to anything else. I can put a gate on there, and what I can say on the gate is, if there is liquid in the tank, output a redstone signal, and then I can run a red alloy wire there, which doesn't need to go far because it's right next to the liquid duct and it's connecting. Now you only need the power to be on for a second or so. Oh, just missed it there because I wasn't paying attention. Let's have a look. Still a couple of bees in there. Now they get processed very quickly. Let's just have a look. There's a few seconds left on this one. So as soon as the liquid gets in the tank, anytime now, it should detect the liquid. There we go. It puts on a redstone signal, and then it turns on the liquid duct. So as you can see, even the most simple of gate is very useful because we can send instructions to turn our engines on and off and save power when the machines aren't being used. Again, in a future video I'll cover the more complex and OR gates, which allow us to meet multiple criteria. So for example, if we had an OR gate connected to the gene pool, we could set it so that it will only work if there are items in the inventory and if it is at full power, as an example. And we could tell it to stop working if the inventory was empty or if there was no room for liquid in the tank. A good way to stop an overflow: if there's liquid in the tank or the tank is full, stop producing. That, for example, we could do with this simple one by saying, if the tank is full, well, pause. If the tank is full, pause process. So if the tank fills up, it will just tell the gene pool to stop working. So I'm going to put that back to what it was, which means I've got to cycle through everything. So if liquid in the tank, output a redstone signal. There it goes. You can also see now there are no bees in the gene pool because it's finished what it had, apart from that one that's still in the pipe, and it has turned off the redstone signal to the engines. The engines are no longer in use, and they're no longer using fuel. Here comes the final bee in the system. Will it go into the gene pool? Yes, it does, and as it goes in, back comes the redstone signal, and the engines are on again. So, there we go, the simple gate. Well guys, there you have it. You now know how to create an assembly table and lasers, which will allow you to manufacture gates, and hopefully they will improve the efficiency of your automation systems. As I said, in a future video I will be covering the more complex gates as well as pipe wires, which allow you to send a signal from a gate all the way down a wire to something at the other end. As always, I hope you found this video informative and entertaining. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out, and it is my motivation to keep providing these videos for you guys. As always, if you have any ideas for future videos, if there's a particular machine item or mod you'd like to see me build and demonstrate, either send me a message or leave it in the comments below. So until the next video, I've been UnstableVoltage, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.